Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Way of the Technician podcast, starring obviously the best hosts in the world that you have right here. Me, Jay, and Curtis right next to me. And we have a wonderful, splendid guest today, Jay Goninen from WrenchWay. He is the founder and president. Thank you so much for being on. And we're also gonna call Curtis for the rest of the podcast Jurtis, because the two J's are in the building taking over and just completely destroying things. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you very much. Jay, can you give a little bit of an introduction of what you stand for and the platform that you have, and just anything that has been happening recently?
Yeah, thanks first and foremost for having me on tonight. Pleasure to be with the two of you. And I think a little about my background. Just grew up in the industry. I've spent my entire life in the industry, so something that is very near and dear to my heart, specifically specifically the technician side. And so we have a company called WrenchWay. A lot of what we do, our entire purpose and mission of WrenchWay is to promote and improve technician careers. So everything we do is focused around that. As I think Curtis knows me a little bit better, and it's something that we really, I think, take to heart, in that we want to help the industry as a whole. We want technicians to be happier as a whole, and really just trying to figure out different ways that we can do that. So it's kind of a little bit of I'm sure a mouthful for you guys, but it is just in general. I think the purpose is so important to us because that is what we live and die by.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of nice to hear from somebody that's focused so deeply in the roots of helping young technicians get into technical school, and then from technical school get into the industry. And you're just, you're chin deep in it. So it's awesome to hear.
Well, and I'll give you a little background on this, right? Because I do think it's important in the grand scheme of things to understand kind of how we got to where we're at today. And it started off with me failing as a technician, right? So I grew up in an automotive repair shop up here in Wisconsin. At my family shop, from the age of 9 years old, was involved with this shop, right? So this was my goal in life, was to become a technician. To me, was no other path. And as I grew up in the industry, one of the things that really kind of became really apparent was that I am not a good technician. So I got in, and I stunk at it, right? And I was probably 20 years old when I got in, not overly mature. I joke about this a lot, but I'm sure my wife would argue that I'm still not at that maturity level yet. So it was one of those humbling experiences, though, where I went in after watching these techs my entire life just kind of do things that they made seem easy, like you guys do, and got my butt kicked. And up here in Wisconsin, we have a lot of rust. We have a lot of elements that we have to deal with, and that is all challenging. And so something that could be very, very easy for most really tripped me up. And if it was a bolt that got stuck or got rounded off, or, something out of the ordinary would happen, I would easily get frustrated and kind of throw my hands in the air and be like, I don't know, I stink at this. Right. So I always say that this industry has a wonderful place of putting you in your spot, right? There's so many different opportunities. And this industry just has a really good way of kind of figuring out where your lane is for you. And that was really what happened to me. I went through different elements of my life. I give the diesel industry a lot of credit because they're probably the ones that kept me in the industry. Went to go be a factory rep. At one point, there's a lot of things in between there, but factory rep to running an equipment dealership's aftermarket, right? So their parts and service departments, and something where I learned a lot. A lot does translate between the industries, right? If you know how to run a service department, I feel like that kind of translates across the board. Leadership in general. I had a lot of people, for failing as a technician, I had a lot of people underneath me at like 30 years old, right? So it was one of those things where you learn kind of by fire. And uh, really grateful that I stunk as a technician, because it did allow me to get into different avenues where I really enjoy, which is talking to people and really trying to promote this trade that I think has really, struggled to get the recognition for technicians over the years. And really, if this is the lifeblood of our industry, then why aren't we maybe making progress here. And so, started a recruiting company in 2017 that was called Find a Wrench. It was all focused on technicians. That was because I couldn't find technicians for myself, right? So lean into something that is very challenging, got help with the recruiting side. That grew pretty quick, but the underlying thing of all of it was that there weren't enough technicians to fill all of the open jobs, right? So started that in 2017. In 2020, I brought on a business partner by the name of Mark Wilson. He had a technology background, and we started building out what today is WrenchWay. And the last piece I'll mention, and Curtis, I think you were kind of alluding to this, is that our business has really changed over the years, and it just continues to adapt and evolve based on customer feedback. We've really shifted to schools, putting a lot of attention on the high schools and the trade schools, the tech schools, to be able to bring them support from industry, and knowing that if we don't do that, there are schools that are struggling. There are schools that are struggling a lot budgetarily. There are schools that are struggling with a lot of things. But then the last piece is the data piece, and really trying to get the collective input of our industry, specifically technicians, to be able to give that feedback to shops in order to help them better manage their operations, hopefully driving some happiness and retention with all of them.
That's awesome. I mean, that's super in depth. I mean, I didn't actually, if I did know, I forgot that you were a technician and being in the Rust Belt, I understand why you got out. It's terrible up there.
You know what? I say technician very loosely. Maybe this is why you forgot, is because I rarely bring it up because I was so bad at it. And to call myself a technician would be doing a disservice to all technicians out there. So I was a wannabe.
But you made up for it with now doing the service for the technicians and being a voice in the industry. So like,
yeah, I like, how else do you respect a profession more than if you stunk at it, right? And for me, like, I was probably never going to be an NFL quarterback. I was probably never going to be in the NBA or play any sport. Wasn't in the cards with zero athleticism. So that is like, you kind of look at all of that. And I think even when you talk about sports, that's maybe a reason why we respect those folks so much, is because that's something that most people can't do, right? Like the far majority of people could never do any of that. I look at technicians in the same light, right? Where when I went in and stunk at it, I've got the utmost respect for technicians as a whole, especially good ones. Curtis, I think I've shared this with you before, but seeing a great professional technician work, to me, is one of the coolest things in the world. And just being organized and really kind of that level of professionalism that maybe you don't see every day. I think that is, to me, one of the coolest things I can see.
Why do you think I mean, you mentioned that technicians don't deserve the recognition that they don't get the recognition that they deserve. Where's that gap at? I mean, are you seeing a gap in some of the things?
So first off, I'm going to call out technicians, which seems very contrary to everything that we do, right? But the reason I want to do this is to try and help the community as a whole. For me, if we want that professionalism and we want all of the respect and the money and everything that comes out of it, we've got to act like it, right? And if I grew up in a shop, I've heard the language, I've seen how people dress at times, I've seen all of this stuff that really goes against everything that we're wanting as technicians, right? So it is, maybe a call to action for technicians that are out there, and maybe a favor to me, is that as I'm out there fighting my tail off, and as we as WrenchWay are out there fighting our tails off to get you more respect, it would help to have that professionalism come along, right? Because it's a lot easier to fight for you when you're representing yourself as a true professional. And I think you guys have probably seen it before, but like, Val on our team does a fantastic job with our TikTok account, and she just was out filming some more. The comments that we see on Val's TikTok videos, I'm like, well, one, they're definitely technicians that are watching this, but two, like, come on, guys, like, we're better than this. Like, we don't have to always act like that tough, rigid, like it's like, how do we bring that professionalism? And that would help all of us as we're fighting this fight for more recognition and more pay and all of this stuff. If we acted like doctors, I don't think we might have this problem that we do all the time.
I think where that kind of problem almost lies is that there isn't like a common ethos for technicians all around the world to follow.
Totally agree.
Look, it's like I see it as like in the Marine Corps, like we have like core values and an ethos that everybody sticks by, no matter what part of the world you're in. Everybody knows the core values of the Marine Corps, and that's why the public, when we're out in the public, they see us as the top of the world. But then, like, if you're in the Marine Corps, like, we call each other like shit bags and stuff. We're calling, like, we make fun of it, like we're the same way as technicians, but everybody's on the same page. When you're out doing something publicly, you look to a certain standard, you dress a certain way. Like, I think that's where it kind of just fails. But some shops do well at it. It's
Totally
just
agree.
that not everybody's on the same page. I think that's where the problem
Well, is it fair for me to say that though? Like and it's not to demean technicians, it's not to bring us down. It's more as hopefully some folks that are out there that are listening to this, maybe it's a blind spot, right? Where if we can uncover that blind spot and we can drive, I'm guessing the person that's listening to this podcast is probably a high achieving technician anyway. So maybe that's not the crowd that I'm calling out, but it's really hard for me to go to bat when I see some of the actions and the activities that happen in a shop on a daily basis. Right. And if you can't act in that professional manner, it's really hard to get all the stuff that you truly desire.
Well, who knew a haircut and tucking your shirt in would, change the way you get paid? I mean, the company I work for has some pretty strong standards, you could call them, where we have to keep our facial hair trimmed, have to keep a haircut a certain way, want us to tuck our shirts in. They want us to look professional that way, even if we don't ever see a customer. Say one comes back into the shop or during our video inspections, they're always seeing, wow, all these technicians look like they're groomed, their hair looks okay, their shirts are tucked in, they look like, I mean, we used to wear white shirts, which is crazy, but it's just like that's the standard that the company has set. And it's kind of annoying. I feel like new technicians in the company are a little bit annoyed by it, where they're like, oh, why I got to do this and that. But ultimately, once you get in there 2 or 3 years in the company, you're like, oh, I see why now, and it changes the game.
Well, think about that from the fixed ops director or the ownership group's perspective, right? If they need to charge more money to make you more money, they need something to go to bat with too, right? Like they can't go out. Jay, to your point, when you see a Marine, like an enlisted Marine, and how put together they are. I've got some of my best friends were Marines, and I would not have screwed with them in my early 20s. I know that they would all destroy me, but so clean cut, so like put together, similar to what Curtis was just saying right there. And as the technology evolves and as we start to charge more for our labor, I think we have to justify that, right? We have to be able to help the ownership out with being able to kind of do that. Now, to me, it is setting a standard for your shop. Curtis, I've seen a lot of your videos. You're really well put together. And I think just being able to, I would have so much confidence as a service manager sending you out to talk to a customer, right? Or do one of your video inspections. I think that helps with the confidence level, that helps drive more profitability to the shop. Then that's the other piece too, is I think we as an industry have to get on the same page. And for technicians, you'll hear, well, shop's making this much money per hour and my check's only this much per hour. And I think leadership could do such a better job of sharing the details of what goes into a labor rate, right? Because I think the perception a lot of times is that the dealership's just keeping everything between your rate and their rate, right? And that couldn't be further from the truth, because when you start to look at the bills, one of the best meetings that I saw a leader have was down in, I believe it was in South Carolina. And it was this dealership general manager. They were suspecting that their technicians were stealing from them, right? So they were thinking they were taking parts, they were taking tools, they were taking stuff. And it wasn't just one person, it was kind of the entire team collectively, and they couldn't put their finger on who it was. Not a good situation, right?
Not at all.
What was so smart about this leader was that he didn't just get angry and just like throw a fit and just yell at everybody. He brought everybody into the conference room, and he had this gigantic dollar amount on this whiteboard. And he said, Jay, if you don't mind, sit in here on this meeting tonight. And it was after hours. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll be good sitting in on this. And so I sit down in this conference room, and I sat there for like 10 or 15 minutes with the techs. And I knew the backstory of this and that he suspected them of stealing. And there were some pretty obvious things that would, I guess, tell the story on that. And so awkwardly sitting in this room, quiet as could be, this huge dollar amount was the only thing on the whiteboard. And so I'm just sitting there waiting, and I had no clue what he was doing. He walks in the door, doesn't say a word. All he says is, can anybody tell me what this dollar amount is? And everybody's like, I don't know. And he said, this is the amount of money we have to generate in revenue per month to be able to break even. Anything under that dollar amount, we do not break even and we lose money. And so to me, what that painted was a picture for everybody to understand what goes into running a dealership, because it is not a cheap operation to run. Now, the ones that do it right do very well for themselves, right? But there are a fair number of dealerships that lose a ton of money as well, right? And these big dealership groups, I think they have some that make a lot of money, some that lose money, and some kind of right at that break even point. But when they lose money, it's not like a little bit of money. They lose a lot of money. So you have to be profitable to be able to take on all the expenses, take on all of the liability. If you were to ever get sued, for example, or something where bad were to happen, you need to be able to have the funds to be able to kind of back up everything that you're doing each day. So, all of that just to say, now I'm picking on leaders a little bit. I was picking on technicians earlier, but all
You
of
got to
that
keep
just
it
to
fair.
say,
You got to keep it
right,
fair.
right. Well, all of that just to say, we could do such a better job at providing transparency of what the sausage is made of, right? Like what goes into the operations. That would help bring an understanding, and a lot of these conversations that we have around flat rate or around salary as a whole, like getting technicians a better idea of why you do the things you do, rather than just saying live with it, good luck.
Exactly. Yeah. The transparency is pretty important. Like my dealer, my service manager, he's pretty transparent with most of the budgeting, like hitting budget for the month, hitting gross and all that stuff. He's pretty transparent with the amount that fixed stops, parts, and service bring in. So I mean, he taught me like effective labor rate, all the Jimmy Jam sublet orders and stuff. And then, like he also shows us a lot, like us messing up and stuff. Like he shows us how much, like he's like, hey, someone messed up this transmission, now it's running us $5,000. Here we're supposed to be like under $6,000 for the month, and like stuff that we have to eat internally. So like that transparency, it just kind of builds a culture for everybody to be like, hey, we got each other's back, let's try and figure this out the best way possible, where it not only benefits us as technicians but fixed operations in general. And that goes with what you were saying, because we all want to be transparent.
So Jay, has that always been that way? Because I love the fact that your manager is doing that, right? Is that something that you at the time understand and appreciate, or is it one of those like, oh, I got another meeting, like how do you feel about it?
No, it kind of honestly started with my interest in wanting to kind of like someday become a service manager or a GM and stuff.
Good for you.
So I would be like a nosy and stuff. I'd be like looking at the graph, his chart and everything. He'd be messing with numbers. I'd be like, hey, what's that right there? And he'd be like, well, that's effective labor rate. Be like, what is it? And he's like, well, yes, the total cost of the repair order times the hours per, the hours you sold on it. And I'm like, oh, junk. So that's what we need to. And then he would show me like what you need to keep it at. So now it's kind of transformed to everybody else being involved in it. Everybody's asking, where are we at on budget this month? Like, where are we at on like stuff that we've eaten? It kind of has like transformed the whole shop to kind of unify us with front office of service and the back office, which is us, the technicians. It's kind of united us to try and work together and to kind of strive for the common goal.
I can't tell you how pumped I am to hear that, right? Like it was your curiosity that drove that. I think other technicians could learn from that, right? And hopefully there's going to be times where you run into a leader or a manager that's not going to be overly sharing, or like they're not going to be overly giving of that information. The fact that yours is phenomenal. The point to take out of that I would gather is the need to be curious, right? And have it be okay. And even with you stating your future goals, so important, right? We talk about career paths. We talk about how, having that path for technicians. That is so important to me to hear that you've got those aspirations and those goals laid out for yourself already, because then you've got something to shoot for and you're working your way. That technical knowledge that you're getting in the shop right now is, I can't tell, it's invaluable, right? Because then you're already a well-spoken person and well-represented person. When you go into that office someday, you're going to be as well prepared as anybody. And hopefully you continue to drive yourself to pair those soft skills with that. But man, you've got all the potential in the world. And the fact that you were curious is absolutely huge.
Thank you very much, Jay. Well, I mean, Curtis over here, he's really like he's like the voice of the technicians in
Yeah.
like fixed operations, especially going to conference meeting people that I've never even known of, that know my
That's where I met.
service manager and know the owner of my store, and I'm just like, whoa, man, this guy's making crazy connections. But Curtis can tell you more about how important that is as well.
Well, that's how I met. I mean, I've heard of Jay, but that's how I met him. And we met at an event with Ted in the World Trade Center in New York. And, I did an episode with Jay on his podcast, and it was, it's weird at being a technician in those environments because we've never had that opportunity before.
Well, but Curtis, how did you show up to that meeting, right? We talk about professionalism. You show up suited and booted, nice suit and well represented. And I think that element of it right there, one, told me you deserve a seat at the table, right? You deserve to be there. And two, to Jay's point, you are bringing that on the boots experience as a technician to the table when you're there. And not everybody can do that. So much credit to you and everything that you've done, because showing up and then showing up as a professional is why that light just keeps getting brighter on you.
I appreciate it. I'll never miss an opportunity to dress up in a suit. And so it kind of lets me tune into that as well as the technician's part, having the seat at the table. And you mentioned, both of y'all kind of mentioned the voice of the technician. And that kind of leads us into something that I just saw you guys post about today on WrenchWay, is that the voice of the technician. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about what that is and what you hope to achieve by doing it?
Yeah, it's a survey that we launched a couple of years ago. Now we're in partnership with ASE on this survey. And really what it is we hope, yeah, there you go with ASE, right? It gives us the ability to give a voice to technicians without throwing them under the bus, right? We want as honest a feedback as we can get, and in a way where you're probably not going to walk up to your manager and say, well, this sucks, and kind of walk them through everything, right? So to me, it's how do we get candid feedback from technicians in a way that we can then collect the data on and report back to industry on. We give this data away free to the industry once we finish up with it. And it's anonymous, so you're definitely not going to get thrown under the bus on anything. And it's one of those things where we just ask about so many different elements of not only the current shop that you're working for, but the industry as a whole, in trying to understand how do we get, or how do we educate shops to truly understand what's going on in a technician's head, because it is challenging. I think even the shops that want to do really well by techs struggle with this, right? There's a lot of shops in general that, I think have the heart to want to do really, really well, but maybe struggle with what elements they can do. So We ask a lot of questions in this one. It's a long form survey. Last year we had about 5,000 respondents to it. This year we hope to at least double that, right? We want to get as many people responding to this because it has been really well received. And I think we're able to take some of the challenges that technicians see and be able to, kind of put a megaphone behind it, right? And so the funny part, and this isn't funny at all, this is actually the opposite of funny, but the first 2 years we did it, this will be the third one. The second year, we do a net promoter score for technicians. And basically, you guys are in dealerships, so you're familiar with net promoter scores. This is a way of kind of getting the overall satisfaction of the industry. And it actually went down on all levels last year, year over year. And so, as much as we're trying to fight for the betterment of the industry, we're still seeing the satisfaction levels fall. And so, our hope is that we don't have to talk about this in 10 years, right? Because all of a sudden, like we've maybe shifted the industry a little bit. And I will say, even though satisfaction level fell last year, I do get the sense that perception of technicians is changing. I do get the sense that respect level of technicians, even within a dealership's doors, I think that's changing. You're hearing more, Curtis. I mean, when we were in New York, how much of it was about technicians with Ted, right? Like there are a lot of conversations about this and a lot of frustrations because I do think even when a dealership really, really tries, they fall short on a few things. And a lot of it isn't money, right? You'll hear the flat rate argument a lot, but there are other things that I think we could do a better job at. And one exercise that I've had a lot of the shops that are on WrenchWay follow is take that voice of technician survey and from a management standpoint, do self-reflection on this in an honest way and say, okay, how do we rank in this category? Are we on par with what everybody else is saying? Are we falling short? Are we ahead of it? Is there room for improvement? And really kind of drive that. And some of it is simple stuff, right? Communication is always a thing that technicians complain about. Respect is always something that technicians complain about. But being able to get some true action within a dealership so that we address these things. And if it is communication, guess what? Communication doesn't cost a dime. You just have to be better at it and you have to be intentional with it. And if you're not, you're just going to keep falling behind because I do see service departments that are absolutely killing it right now in that regard.
Well, how can we help with that? How can Jay and I, where can we find this voice of technician thing at, and how can we push it out there for more people to participate in it?
Well, we appreciate you even offering that, but it's out at WrenchWay.com. You'll see our voice of technician survey along with, I think you can still download past year's reports too, to kind of get like a sense of how things fell. If you do that, what I would say is take the survey before you read that, right? Our goal is not for everybody to just to fall in the same collective voice. We want to get this out to as many of you as possible. And we do, like, the one thing I'll mention about that, we want to keep your data as secure as humanly possible. You would have no idea how many companies have reached out to us wanting to buy like the lists and information, right? And we're like, this is on lockdown. Like, we do not share this with anybody in terms of contact information or anything.
Good.
And so, and even for us internally, we're not using it for any type of like real marketing, or like we're not selling resumes. We're not doing anything like that. It is truly like, once you submit the information, that's it. Right. And so it is trying to, and maybe we send like a marketing email as a follow-up to it or something. There might be something there. So I don't want to say nothing ever, but that is on lockdown. That does not go, that is not for anybody's eyes outside of our own, right? Like that, we truly take that to heart. But if you go to WrenchWay.com, check out the voice of technician survey, you can click it. It will take, this one takes a little bit of time, right? This isn't just a 2-minute finish it and be done, but we want your honest thoughts, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. And I would encourage those that are taking it, make sure you put some good in there, right? Because not every aspect of your job or the industry is miserable, but be honest, be truthful with this, and we'll be able to help you out in the long run, right? We'll keep fighting for these things as long as you're telling us to fight for the right things, right? And so that part's important. We ironically need to work with more younger technicians. When last year's survey results came back, it was very reflective of the technician community as a whole. I think the average age or average experience level was over 20 years, over 20 years of experience. And that wasn't, I shouldn't even say that was the average, because the average was higher than even that. When we first put the survey out, I'm like, oh, we're just going to get all entry level technicians filling this out. And it was quite the opposite. But my buddy Tanner Brandt, who's a great technician down in North Carolina, he'd said after we got the results back last year, he said, Jay, think about it. He goes, a lot of the shops and dealers that he goes to, he's a remote diag tech. He goes, there are a lot of baby boomers that are ready to retire. There's some middle-aged technicians, and then there's maybe a little bit more on the entry level. But it in his experience, it was older techs and entry level techs, and not a lot in between. And so that was very reflected in our survey. So any way that we can get that message out in terms of getting more survey responses from technicians, I do think it helps arm us in a way that we can then go out and make sure that what we're saying is accurate to all these shops around the country.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. I'm excited to see what the result, where it goes this year, especially with all the disgruntledness of the industry the last year.
I'm excited and terrified at the same time. Like I don't want to see the net promoter score go down again this year. I was genuinely discouraged last year when I got the results back. And when I say discouraged, that's not meant to be like a negative overall. It's just like, hey, we put a lot of work into this, and to not see that score just bump up a little bit and in fact go backwards is very frustrating. But it tells us of the ongoing frustration of technicians, and that we got to keep fighting. We got to keep doing better. WrenchWay's got to do a better job at supporting the industry and trying to get the word out there. And the more voices we have, I think the more attention we can call to this. So just one of those things where I think the more voices we have, the stronger that comes across, right? So that's my main plug for the survey itself.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some of the guys in the shop to hop on there as well and give some comments. I'm gonna post it on my story as well. Just to,
I appreciate that.
Curtis, if you post it on your story, there's gonna be so much negativity, bro.
I'm gonna make a reel about it, because I feel like whatever. There's so much negativity on being positive in the industry. Every time I post something positive,
Yes.
It's always just so negative, and I feel like this is why we're where we're at, is because everyone's so wrapped up in the negative. And yeah, sometimes it does stink. I mean, it's beating a dead horse at this point, but it's just like, it does stink. I mean, I could tell you about how slow it is today at work, but what am I going to do about it? I'm just going to show up tomorrow with the best attitude I can and try to make the most of it.
Well, and you're absolutely right. I think there are some folks that just thrive on negativity, and some of that social media as a whole, right? I think you could read that anywhere, but same experience on our end. If we have a really popular social post, you'll hear we've got a couple that have been over the years. There's this guy on YouTube that when we put out a video, he'll write a whole book on everything that's gone wrong to him. And it sucks for me, because I'm sure there is some truth behind that. But what I'll say is, I have yet to hear of a job, regardless of how much money that you make, where you don't have bad days, right? As long as it's not a bad, you don't turn that bad week into a bad year and a bad, or bad month, bad year, bad decade. I think attitude has so much to do with that. And if you're constantly just looking for the negative in things, you're going to find it, because you have this space where you can find it in spades, right? And if negativity enjoys company. And I think the more negative you are, like the more you can build that up. positivity also brings that negativity, right? Like it's Chris Craig. I don't. Do you guys know Chris at all? Like he does a
We
lot.
actually
Yeah,
we have a recording with him later this week, so he's going to be on the podcast.
he can speak. He could speak firsthand for it, right? Like he and I have had a lot of conversations about that, and it stinks because he's in the same boat, right? Trying to bring positivity, and you just get destroyed on social media at times, and you're like, okay, like at some point you have to help yourself out a little bit too, right? And it's if you hate this industry that much, go find something different. Like it sucks to say because we want all the good people we can have here, but if it's going to be that miserable for you, then nobody's holding you here. Like go do something else. And if you find yourself in that rut, we've all been in those ruts, right? Like where you get into a rut and you're in the shop and Curtis, you're slow right now. Or maybe you just get that job that just kicks your tail, right? Like where you just really, really struggle with it. Is it hard to be positive at that point? Yeah, it's really hard to be positive at that point. But what are you doing to change your mindset? Are you reading something good? Are you listening to good podcasts like this? Are you listening to, maybe a book on tape? Are you doing something that's going to drive your mindset? Because if you just continue to consume crap on the internet, guess what you're going to be thinking? You're going to be thinking that same stuff. And so again, not to call techs out because it's not just techs, it's the general population. Stop feeding yourself the bad stuff and like maybe start to focus on a little bit better. And you know what? If you find yourself and you're in a bay, I think this is a common thing too, right? And I don't know if this is your guys' experience, but I hear this a lot. When you first come into the industry and you get set next to that super negative guy that's been there for 35 years and is just constantly complaining and telling like all the young people, like, why would you ever come into this industry? That's stupid. Like, and you're like, okay, so on top of maybe having some regular challenges, then you're working next to somebody that's super negative, and you're just like, how do you get into a culture where you don't fight that? Because that makes life so much easier. I don't know about you guys, but I've worked in shops where you're surrounded by cool guys, and that makes a world of difference. That makes your life so much better.
Exactly. Yeah, it really does. I mean, the shop, most of us are young guys, and it's a great time for everybody. I mean, we're working, and when we're not working, we're helping each other doing like some diag or some random job. Like today, I posted on my story, I didn't have a car, but one of my coworkers was doing like a timing belt on a 03 Tacoma, and he had the belt facing backwards, and I was just making fun of him. Like, it's gonna run just fine, but it was just like the principle of it, like the arrows face the idiot, not the vehicle. So like I was like, what are you doing? And he didn't even have it marked up. He had the cam and the crank and sync, so it ran just fine. But I was like, that's just out of the ordinary. But I've also had currently, I ain't even gonna say that. But I've also had a coworker who's been like really negative and like just like I'm just like, bro, you have this victim mindset of where everybody else is doing the bad things to you. You're not making the best out of your situation. You're just making the absolute worst of it by looking at the absolute worst way. So I mean, I just feel for like anybody, every technician that's gonna watch this and see this clip, like just look at it in a good way and look at what you can actually take control of. Don't look at the uncontrollable because it's not gonna. It's only for I'm going to say the Lord to change. It's only for him to change. You can't change it. You can't change it. You got to do what you can do best.
How do you guys try to control that when you're in the shop? Like from a mindset perspective, I'm just curious for guys that are doing it like each and every day, like what do you do? Music? What's that?
Well, before I jump into that, there's some, I'm not going to pretend to know the numbers on this statistic, but there's some statistic that says that if you work next to a negative person, you're 50 more percent likely to become negative. But if you work next to a positive person, you're 70 more percent likely to become, it's like if you work next to a positive person, there's so much better future for you and better mindset for you than if you're stuck negativity. And so I don't know the numbers on that. They probably butchered them, but I saw it a while back, but to stay positive, I mean, you got to have a goldfish brain. You just got to forget like Just keep rolling with the punches and be like, hey, today's stunk. Go back, listen to a podcast, listen to music that you love, spend time with your, go on a bike ride, go on a walk, go spend time with your family, your kids, go eat. I mean, if don't drink your sorrows away, but if you just want to go have a beer after work, like that's fine too. Like do something that you enjoy that kind of, takes the pressure off, and it's going to tomorrow and be like, hey, tomorrow could be better. Tomorrow can be better. And if it's not, well, keep trying, because you like you said, that snowball effect, that one day turns into a week, and that week turns into a month. And then before you know it, you're just a 10, 15-year technician who's the guy that says, why'd I ever get into this industry? I should leave. Don't join it. And it's like, that's how those people start, with one bad day.
Disgusting. Yeah, disgusting. But in how I try to kind of look at it, it's like similar to Curtis, but then I mean, like today I only got, like, Curtis got 8 hours today. I got 5.7. Like, it was not a good day, like, for work wise. Like, it's a good day because I'm alive and I'm healthy. I am coming under a cold. I don't know if you can hear it. My nose is stuffed, but like,
Still sound great.
Yeah, like, thank you. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm about to go to the gym after this episode. Like, my dogs are alive. I've got a wonderful family around me. Like, I've got a job that pays me well. I've got Instagram, a bunch of people like supporting me, following me, and even like most of the time, like, I help them feel better. So just to see that, and I'm just like, bro, I'm chilling. I'm honestly chilling. Life is good.
I need just a recording of you, Jay, like every day, just the positivity rolling in my life. But what I'll add there that I think is a really something that really helped me out growing up, right, was that I never read a book when I was in high school, didn't like to read. And you can see behind me, like that was something that I had a mentor that really pushed me and almost made fun of me, because he's like, you don't read? Like, no. And then he's like, then I heard an author by the name of John Spence, who we've had on our podcast before, who I had heard speak at a conference probably 20 something years ago. And he had said that if you read a book a month, you're ahead of 99.5% of college graduates. And so that was one of those things where I'm like, oh, this is a pretty easy leg up, right? Like if I focus on that, and so many books about growth and so many books, I think when I grew up, my dad would probably even joke about, a personal development section, like going into Barnes and Noble, personal development. And, I those are my favorite ones. They're great. I love them, and it changes your mindset. But even to the core of what I just said there, it took a super solid mentor early on in my career to kind of lead me in the right direction. So for those of you techs that are out there listening to this, if you don't have a good mentor in your shop, or maybe you don't even know you have a good mentor in your shop yet, some of them can be quiet at times. So just being able to really figure out, it does help if there's one in your shop, because then you have somebody that you get along with, that you can follow. When you have a bad day, you have somebody to vent to. I think venting is so important, to be able, without bitching, right? Like venting and just saying, hey, I just got my tail kicked by this thing. Like having those conversations, so important. But if you don't have a mentor, find one. And maybe it doesn't even have to be a technician, right? It could be somebody else in the industry. It could be out of the industry, but somebody that is going to push you to get better, and somebody that's going to challenge you when you do become in that, almost that rut where you're just complaining all the time. Somebody that can call you out when you need to be called out, as well as motivate you when you just kind of need that little extra motivation to kind of keep pushing. So uh, I think the most important point that I have there is, if you're struggling, find somebody or something that can help you change your mindset.
I think that's kind of what started for my Instagram, is why I kind of started social media, was to be that mentor that I never really had, or to be that person that other technicians can ask questions or lean on. And I think I underestimated the amount of people that need that or want that, and just someone to talk to and have, ask questions and look up to, whether they're older, younger, male, female, anything. It just doesn't matter. It's people in general just don't really have that. I mean, Jay, I'm sure you could, both of y'all really, I'm sure you can attest to the amount of DMs and messages that you get, or people just want to talk and ask questions and just want to have some feedback. It's crazy. It
Yeah,
blows me away.
it is. And I think you hit it on the head there, Curtis, where that to me tells me everything I need to know about you, right? Because you got into this for a positive reason, and you can tell how much of a lane you own on that side, because there are very few doing that, right? Where you're pushing that positive message. And I think it's sorely needed. I think we could use more of you, right? We could use more of positivity in general in our industry. And I feel like it's got to come from people that are actually experiencing it at the same time, which is, I think, where both of you bringing that positivity is so important, because it can't be like me where I don't work on a shop floor anymore, right? So it's easy to pick a hole in my story and say, well, you don't do this every day. You guys do. So it's really hard to argue that when you guys are out there spreading positivity and you're working on this every single day. And, Curtis, credit to you in that I think you've been very outspoken and very honest about flat rate, about the time that you bill, about kind of your drive behind that. I appreciate you coming on our podcast and talking about that as well. I think even that side's important, right? Because you can see the snowball effect every single time a social media post starts around flat rate. I could post a flat rate conversation on LinkedIn right now and have, I don't know how many comments, endless comments, because everybody's got an opinion on it. It feels like we're very far off on that opinion from text to the shops. But I've also heard, like, and these texts don't tend to be as boisterous, but I've had texts reach out to me and say, I love flat rate. Like, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I have made one heck of a life for myself because of it. And so I think folks like that probably hide in the weeds a little bit, because they don't want to state their positivity for that one thing, because they're going to be fighting mountains of negativity whenever they post something like that.
Between that and manufacturers coming out for blood, like if anyone posts anything positive about beating time, the manufacturers are out there and they're like, hell yeah, we're about to lower the times. And it's just like, so no one wants to do it because we can't support each other positively.
Solid
Because
point.
but negativity on one side and getting your times lowered on the other, it's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
Or you have someone that's outside of the automotive industry but still understands, like, to a certain point, labor times coming from a customer side. They're like, well, why did I just pay you that much on that job when you finished it in half of the time? Well, like, you didn't see the repair manual that I read. You didn't see the amount of tools that I have to make the job go fast. You didn't see the sweat pouring down my face to finish it in that time. You don't see the years that I put into gathering certifications in this industry. Like, you don't see those things. You just see me saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna knock that out. What? You're gonna knock it out that quickly? Yeah, I am. I've done a good amount of them. I know how to do them. You just see that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't ask the doctor how much to. I mean, like when the doctor says it costs this much, you get it done.
Exactly.
And most of the time, I would love, and it happens from time to time, right? Like a customer will try to make the repair on their own and can't, so it ends up coming into the shop, and it probably is that same customer that tried it on their own that are the ones that are complaining about it. And you're like, all right, like, I've done this 500 times. Like, I know what I'm doing here, and I know, which tool. I know that I'm going to need a 13 millimeter wrench here consistently. I know I'm going to need like, you've got everything organized in your mind. And maybe that is something we could do better as an industry. I've talked to ASE a lot about this, where we need to get more awareness to the general consumer about how talented technicians are, right? Like, they need to understand all of the good work. And as Jay had mentioned, all of the experience, the certifications, the everything that they've done to become great at this.
Yeah, I think it's a sensitive topic to compare technicians to doctors, but We're not
Do it.
saving lives, but we have a very similar type position where we have to learn so much so often and invest all that money into tools. I mean,
You say
Jay
not
just meant
saving lives, and I would argue that a little bit, right? And maybe we're not performing open heart surgery, but when I came into the industry, I always joke like I'd always say, just doing a brake job. And not in the back of my head, like as I get older, I think maybe and I have a son, this has become more of a thing for me, right? Where you might think it's just a brake job. I'm trying to stop my car with my kid in the back. And if it doesn't stop, just recently saw a car. We still have our independent shop, right? Our family's independent shop. And I was down at the shop a few weeks ago, and this lady comes in, and a good customer down there says, "Hey, this, front end is shimmying really bad." And so our front office folks, they start quizzing her a little bit, like, what are you talking, really kind of trying to get the story. Well, turns out her son tried to do a ball joint on this car, and tech lifts the car up on the hoist, and the ball joint is hanging out of the control arm.
ooh,
This person didn't press the ball joint in. And so this lady drove 15 miles to get to the shop on that. So when you say we're not saving lives, I disagree a little bit, because if you have an unqualified person do it, or how often have you seen maybe a brake pad on backwards and it's got the metal part hitting the rotor? Like there's so many simple things that people can screw up that put people's lives in danger. And that's what we need to drive home to the end consumer as well, right? Like if you have an unqualified person doing that, you could potentially be putting your family's life at risk. And it took me a long time to really come to an understanding with that. But the older I get, and just think about my son. And if I had somebody that was inferior working on my vehicle and something bad happened to my son, how devastating that would be. Right. And so, I just, to me, we need to bring more attention to the general consumer about that part alone.
No, yeah, yeah. That's a very good way to look at it. And I mean, it is basically, I mean, it's true. It's true. I mean, shoot, if you go to another shop and they mess up your brake job, you ain't seeing tomorrow, brother. You gonna stop, but you ain't gonna stop when you wanted to.
That's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but not, I mean, besides pay, I mean, we know pay is a big one, but how do we bring the value and the recognition and, the automotive, like automotive technicians, how do we bring that up? How do we say, hey, it can't just be, I mean, obviously we need to live the part or wear the part and show up a little bit more professionally, but how can we do that? Is it just bringing, I know video inspections are helping, but how else
Yeah.
can the population understand the importance of technicians and the importance of getting your car repaired by the right people?
This is something I could get a lot of people fired up on. I I do think there's value in ASE, right? And maybe not just ASE, but the factory certifications and really, I think anything that can show off your credential and your ability to repair a vehicle properly is better. And I point to the fact that realistically, it takes more qualification to be a cosmetologist, a hairstylist, than it does a technician. When you think about that, they need to be licensed. We don't need to. So anybody there, how do you distinguish between a true quality professional and maybe somebody that's doing it in their backyard or not living up to a standard? And so is ASE perfect? Absolutely not. None of us are. But I think we do need to rally around something like that, right? Where we have to be able to distinguish why we're better, why maybe that unqualified person, that untrained person down the road that thinks you can just slap brakes and rotors on a car and be perfectly fine might want to reconsider that. And I know, and just we have a partnership with ASE. We're very well tied to ASE. So there is some bias there. I know there are people that are going to fight me on this as far as the value of that credential, but I think it's sorely needed for our industry as a whole. Like I truly think we need to be able to justify the labor rates that we have. We need to be able to justify, if kind of going back to the whole conversation about how we treat people better, pay is a big piece of that, right? Like if you're dead slow and you're flat rate, that sucks. If you're not being paid properly as a whole, or you feel like you should be paid better, what are you doing to help us drive that perception of our industry in a better place? Certification for me is a very low hanging fruit piece of this, to where it helps me go out as a shop, if you are credentialed, to justify everything that we're doing and explain to the customer, hey, we have factory certified technicians, or we have ASC certified technicians working on your vehicle. What that means to you is that they've gone through training, they've gone through testing to make sure that they're a viable candidate to work on your vehicle. And so I do think, Curtis, you and I talked about this before, but I work really closely with ASE's CEO, Dave Johnson, and he came on board 2 years ago, right about 2 years ago. And a lot of things are kind of shifting in the right direction with them as a whole. And they're all ears right now, right? So if you technicians that have thoughts on this, voice them, right? And not in a way that's just negative and that you're just trying to shoot down everything. Like, what can you do to help drive the industry to a better place? And Jay, I love what you're reaching for right there.
It would be awesome to have a conversation. I would say it'd be awesome to have a conversation with him. From us to him, just some, spitballing ideas. But I know that Canada has the Red Seal program, and I'm wondering if ASE can evolve into that, where it is a more rigorous process and there is more training and time involved before you're out there just fixing people's cars on a whim.
Well, and in defense of technicians there, a lot of times maybe they don't even want to go that fast, right? But the pressures to produce, and especially if you put a young tech on flat rate right off the bat, I do feel like you're setting them up for failure, because there are some pressures that go along with that. Now, Josh Arnold, you guys know Josh?
I do.
Yeah. He had in one of the podcasts I did with him, he had such a unique perspective on that flat rate that was different than anybody else I had ever heard. So entry level flat rate, in my head, I was always like, this is a bad thing. Like, why would you do that? Like, and he actually had a rebuttal from a technician standpoint. And maybe this is just his positive thinking that drove this, but he said, I loved being on flat rate early in my career. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, I didn't feel the pressure as much. He said, if there was an engine job that came in and it was going to be an 8-hour engine job, I would go talk to my service manager ahead of time, if it was the first time I was seeing this thing, and say, hey, listen, this is probably going to take me 12, 13 hours because it's the first time I'm doing this. I just want to be on the same page as you. And what he would do, he said the shop would be open more hours than he was working, right? So then he would stay after work, after his hours, and put in the time to get that right. And he said by doing that, he could take his time without the pressure of feeling like the shop is breathing down his neck, but really take the time to understand the job, why he's doing certain things. And then he said, each time he did that job, guess what? Getting a little faster, Jay, to your point, like he then gets to the point to where he's done it so many times that now he's beating that 8 hours pretty handily. Right. And so, I think that part right there, I almost, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth here, right? Because I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't love a young tech going on flat rate early. And maybe Josh is the exception to the rule. But he did have a point in that, he approached it differently. And maybe it was that positive mindset that he had that made him take that approach differently. But all that just to say, when you say the Red Seal thing, I do think there are challenges to that. Red Seal is government driven in Canada, I believe, right? Like, I think that's driven by the government.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be here, but it's a good example.
Well, and the funny part was the whole origin story of ASE, and we should get Dave on this podcast as well at some point, which I can help you guys out with.
That'll
But
be killer.
yeah, the the origin story of ASC, and I love when Dave tells this because he can tell it much more accurately than I can. But back in the 70s, the government wanted to kind of put their hands around the industry. They wanted to force certification, and the OEMs got together and said, wait a minute, government, we've seen how you operate things, and this probably isn't a great idea. So the OEs got together to form ASE as a way to kind of keep the government at bay and say, hey, we know this industry far better than you ever will. Let us handle this. So I think going back to that is very important. And I love when Dave tells that story. But then I also think it is general acceptance of it in our industry, right? And there are people, I'm sure you guys have heard people before, where if they can't pass the test, they'll bash the test. And if they don't want to put in the extra work to study for a test, they'll bash the test. And does it tell you everything you need to know about a technician? Absolutely not, right? I've seen technicians that pass the tests and aren't good technicians. I've also seen technicians that can't pass a test that are great technicians. And so is it fully encompassing and tell the whole story? No. But does it put a feather in your cap? Jay, I think you take a lot of pride when you pointed that plaque out behind you, right? Like you should have a ton of pride in that. That is an amazing, amazing feat. And it's not easy. And it is one of those things when you look at it, if everybody passed every ASC test, what would be the value in it? None. But it's technicians writing those tests. So it's not ASE writing those tests. It's a group of collective technicians that write those tests. So it is, there's some value in those. Like there's a lot of value in those in my eyes.
No, 100%. There's definitely a good amount of value in them. I also want to hit on when you said the perspective that Josh had. Like that's a good perspective, but at the same time, I feel like in his specific situation and his specific mindset, that worked out for him. Like I say the same thing. I go about it the same way. Like it's not being bad. It's not bad being on flat rate immediately because I mean I did the same thing. I'd have like a 22-hour warranty, a short block job on like a Corolla or something. I mean, it was going to take me, like, I wasn't going to finish it in that day, but I was also going to stay after to finish it in that day. You know what I mean? Not at 6 o'clock, but within that day, I was going to finish it and then still kind of make time on it because the next day, guess what? I had 22 hours and I was able to work on other jobs. But then, like, I like to look at it from, like, let's say you do lose time on that job. As a young technician, you probably are living in your parents' house, not paying all the bills and stuff, which is it's okay to learn that way that he was learning, taking like 13 hours on an 8-hour job because you don't have all the pressure of having a family on you. But imagine like a 19-year-old technician who does have that pressure on them, who is living on his own, who has to pay $1,600 in rent, provide for 2 children and his wife. Like, bruh, I'm not gonna lie, he's not going on flat rate immediately. He's gonna sink unless he's the mentally strongest person like ever.
Totally agree.
Gonna think it's gonna be hard. So it's kind of like on perspective and what situation it is. For those people who are in their parents' house, who are like able to, take some L's here and there, take advantage of that. Like, bro, if you get some BS job, take advantage of that. Because guess what? Learn while you're in your parents' house. And then when you move out, you'll never have to worry about it. You'll be like, bro, I did that trash job years ago. I'm going to book time on it now. Because guess what? I did it when I was younger, when I could afford to lose time on it.
Everybody's different, right? Everybody's situation is different. Even like if you come at me and argue me on the ASE thing, I'll respect your opinion because I'm probably not going to change your opinion anyway. But if you don't agree with me, come up with a better solution for me, right? Like what is your solution for it? And I just look at it, I think what I've been lucky enough to see throughout my career has been all aspects of a shop, right? From ground floor, when I started off, I was taking out the garbage and sweeping floors and, doing all the grunt work. And over time, worked on cars, wasn't great at it, but did it. But then kind of worked my way up and was able to see different aspects of the industry. And for me to, going back to the respect thing as a whole, how can certifications hurt respect? right? Like, unless everybody passes that certification, maybe that is like, I think, I don't know how it is with you guys, but when we took the air conditioning certification test when we were going in tech school, that's about the biggest joke there is, right? Like, it's an open book test where you like basically cheat off of each other. Like that one to me is a joke. But then when you look at others, if you're on board with us fighting to make this industry a better place, to get you more respect, to get you more pay, to get you everything that you're wanting, we got to be rowing in the same direction a little bit. And if everybody's just arguing about everything, really hard to make progress.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a perfect point. Is it's kind of the the little cherry on top of this whole conversation is we all need to work together. We all need to be rowing in the same direction, and we're all most of us, if not all of us, are all trying to do the same thing and help the industry be better. I'm not
Right.
intentionally,
Yeah.
trying to upset all the people, all the keyboard warriors on social media. I'm just trying to make it a better place for the next guy or next guy,
We want
next
to,
tech.
whether they admit it or not, we're trying to help you, keyboard warriors. So help us help you, right? And that is, I always say technicians are a skeptical bunch, right? Like in general, and I can put myself in that bucket at times. And I think you worry about who to trust, you worry about who's going to lead you in the right direction, and I get that. Like, I think we all have maybe some concern over that, but if all you're going to do is get out there and blast the industry, maybe don't just blast us. Give us some true suggestions. And it can't just be get rid of flat rate. Okay, what do you want then? Well, I just want straight hourly. Okay, there's shops out there that pay straight hourly. I want hourly plus a bonus. Okay, there are shops out there that pay hourly plus a bonus. And so, Jay, I think you mentioned the victim mindset before this, and I think that's something that if somebody's listening to this, I would encourage you to get out of that mindset, because I guarantee it's not just with the shop that you have that mindset. I'm guessing you take that home at night, and I'm guessing there are other factors in your life where you have that victim mindset. And if you truly kind of take a step back and look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, am I being as positive as I could be, as corny as that sounds? There's probably a chance, there's opportunities for all of us to get a little bit better in that mindset. And I'm not perfect by any stretch. I go through tough days too, right? And I get it. But what are you doing to snap yourself out of it? And if you want to live miserable and you want to live complaining about everything, go right ahead, but you're not helping yourself out.
Not at all.
Will this get me canceled, by the way, the whole thing?
No. I mean, people will say whatever they want to say anyway. So not with us. You're not getting canceled with us. We're in it together.
Appreciate
And
that.
we really appreciate you taking the time, Jay, to talk to us and share about WrenchWay and share about the Voice of the Technician and your partnership with ASE and how that's forming. Where besides WrenchWay.com, where can people find you and some of the things you're pushing?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, depending on if I'm traveling, right? Like, my travel schedule has been pretty hectic lately, so I haven't been great at that. But if you shoot me a message or connect with me, I'm more than happy to talk to you. And even if you're one of those techs that you find yourself in that rut, reach out. I'd be happy to have a phone conversation with you and talk you. Like, maybe I don't have perfect advice, but I truly have a heart for trying to help people out. So if you reach out, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Curtis, I think you know me well enough to know I'm a pretty open book most times, right? Like, I really want to help people out. And so, LinkedIn's the best place to get a hold of me. Wrenchway.com is the best way to find us. If you're looking for maybe some comical relief, Wrenchway on TikTok is pretty good. I'm not on it. That's why it's comical. That's why it's good. But then Facebook, Instagram, all the social channels, we're out there doing different content. And there is last plug I'll make on WrenchWay, and this could change in the coming months or years, but we have something called Shop Talk. And I do appreciate when techs go out there and post, and it could be a challenge. It could be something that they're seeing in their day-to-day life. Again, as we're trying to educate shops, if there's something maybe there's something that your employer does for you that's amazing. As long as it doesn't have like a recruiting spin to it, we're pretty cool with letting that fly. But if you do talk about your challenges out there, I think it's a great opportunity to have maybe a support network of folks that can help you out. And whether it's LinkedIn or WrenchWay Shop Talk or wherever, hopefully you can try to bring some positivity to it. Don't beat Curtis up so much. Don't beat Jay up so much. Like they're trying to do some good things for all of you.
I'm used to it. I'm used to it, man. I'm just taking on the chin.
Well, you guys do fantastic work. And before we are off here, I just do want to voice my appreciation for the both of you. I think what you're doing is sorely needed. And I hope, regardless of what, negative feedback you guys get, you guys seem resilient. You seem like guys that, maybe don't let some of that stuff bug you. And I think you need that, right? For what you guys are doing and the followings that you're developing. Just keep fighting the good fight. You guys are doing some amazing things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
sir.
We appreciate it.
That's how I know I'm getting old. You guys called me sir.
Oh, it's such a habit. I call everyone sir.
It's a Southern thing. I actually do too. I do too. But I joke about that. I think a few more gray hairs than maybe a few years ago. So I'm starting to move into that sir territory, I think.
Oh, how old, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 42. I'll be 43 in January.
You're doing great, man. You look great.
Thanks. Some days better than others, but yeah, I appreciate that.
You got 20 years on me.
Yeah, just a puppy, just getting started, man. That's and to be doing everything that you're doing already, man, more power to you. Keep up all the good work. Did I see a master on that ASC plaque as well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kudos to you. And 20, how old are you?
23.
23, master certified at 23. Future's bright, my man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I try.
I can tell. You're killing it.
Nah. But
Jay, take us out of here, man. We're ready.
Ready to fly out. I'm about to go to the gym too. But I also wanted to say, if there are any veterans or Marine Corps wise, happy birthday, Devil Dogs. Today's Marine Corps' birthday, 1775 Tavern Bar. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hopping on another episode of Way of the Technician podcast. We had a wonderful, splendid guest today, Jay up in the top corner with WrenchWay. Thank you very much for hopping on here. Me and Curtis, you already know we're going to be here and we're going to stay here. Thank you guys and see you next time.